Ground control to Major Tom. Ground control to Major Tom.
Well, welcome to our second flashback for St. Joe Vikings 70 Flashback. And today we're looking at the month of July in 1969. And to share some of their recollections is Joe Ursic. Joe, we're kind of thinking about what was going on 50 years ago, and really one of the biggest things was the lunar landing. It's getting a lot of press. You had an interest in that, but where were you when man landed on the moon?
I was in Canada.
Canada?
On a Boy Scout canoe trip, yes.
And
no Wi-Fi.
Did you know what was going on, though? Were you?
We had known it was launching before we left. It was like a week and a couple days expedition up there. Get in the canoes, they load dehydrated food, and you go out for a week and you don't see anybody.
That's a great experience. But you had an interest nonetheless in this whole rocket thing. So tell us about what was the spark and what you did at St. Joe's that helped fuel that interest.
Well, I was a member of the Space Science Club, and we talked about astronauts and launches, and we built these little model rockets with hard fuel there in them, so we could go out into the track area and launch them. They'd go up 500, 600 feet, and then the top would pop off, a parachute would come out, it'd slip back down, and you could reuse them. That was always fun. The one time, though, I'm a kid from Lyndhurst, so Lake Erie is kind of new to me, and in the spring it's always ice-packed, But one time a wind caught the parachute and blew it off onto the ice. And I was like, that looked like 9-inch ice. So I said, I'll go out there and get it because it was pre-packed. So I went out there, and it was like a maze going through the Superman's Fortress of Solitude with ice spikes and everything. And I found it and came back. It was like, well, I don't know if I'd let my kids ever do that.
So what are you doing today with rockets?
I contract for NASA for the last 18 years. So I've been we've been supporting the space station, a lot of science experiments that are going on up there. As far as rockets, though, there was a 1-month period out in February of '06 that we flew out to California and helped Boeing with one of their problems with their rocket engines. They do a lot of structural analysis. So I had to climb over in the Santa Susana Mountains, which is west of LA. They have a big rocket facility up there. I'm climbing over these Saturn engines and RS-232 engines and instrumenting them and wiring them and hooking them up to my little laptop and then getting into a bunker as they hot fire these things. And these things blast like it's a regular takeoff, but they're mounted and they blast right into the ground. So you were looking through a visor in this little bunker, like a World War II bunker, at this thing blasts off, and you're hoping your computer records all the data, which it did. So. And we analyzed it and resolved the problems that Boeing was having with one of their cooling systems on the rocket.
Well, very good. Thanks for sharing a little of your time now, and we'll see you as we get closer to the reunion.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, Joe. I also have on the phone Lou Koenig, St. Joe's Class of 70. Lou, where were you when man was landing on the moon back in 1969?
For the lunar landing, we were in my parents' living room, watching it, and I think, it was just astounding to see that somebody was there. But we had kind of grown up with that, being in grade school, that they had TVs and you could watch the different astronauts going up in space, and so the whole period of the 60s was very much, focused on that, thing from John Kennedy to, beat the Russians to the moon. And it's kind of incredible after that period, nobody's been up there since.
Tell me about the space science and the rocket clubs. Were they intermingled or?
Well, there were two. The reason I got involved was a friend of mine who was from the class of 71, Tom Consitis. He was very interested in astronomy. And so he had a telescope, and we'd go out in his backyard and look at the stars and stuff. And so, you had two groups. One of the people that were interested in astronomy and some of the people that were interested in rockets. So you had two kind of different groups. And I think over overall, it was amazing looking back at all the different groups that were available, all the things that we could do to follow our interests, all the different clubs and organizations, and how much of that, took into our later life. I became a scientist, you became interested in art, the whole cinema thing, and, we started out as boys, and we left as men. And I think looking back at my high school years, it was probably the most change in our lives compared to any other 4 years in our lives, maybe except from 0 to 4, but that we really remember, going in as boys and coming out as men.
Yeah.
Interesting, I think, when you reflect back on Catholic education, what a genius it was to have boys and girls separated in high school. I mean, at the time we were like, very feeling our hormones, but now looking back at it, the thing that I found is that even though I was in the science track and I was in, advanced math and that stuff, but the advanced math class had a lot of the football players and a lot of the basketball players, Pat Lyons, Don Daly. And the thing I found was that there was not a whole lot of kind of like favoritism, that it wasn't the jocks and the brainiacs. It was you were all in class together, and there was a lot of companionship and comradeship, even though you had the jocks and the geeks and the almost geeks. I think there was a lot more that drew us together by not having girls there that we had to show off for, or the jocks had to show off for by bullying the geeks. So I think that really drew us together, because it's interesting after 50 years to see how much that cohesiveness is still there.
Yeah, that's a great observation. Lou, it was a pleasure. It was really fun talking to you.
Take care.
All right, bye.